Picture a river reflecting hundreds of silk lanterns, the smell of charcoal grills drifting from every alley, and a tailor measuring you for a custom suit she'll have ready by tomorrow morning. This is Hoi An, and it's just one stop along Vietnam's central coast, a 120-kilometre stretch of Southeast Asia that somehow fits imperial cities, empty beaches, mountain passes, and arguably the country's greatest food into a single week. Later, we'll ride one of the world's legendary coastal roads, 21 kilometres over the mountains, with the South China Sea spread out below. But we'll get there. Vietnam's central coast runs from the old imperial capital of Hue down through Da Nang to the lantern-lit streets of Hoi An. It's the country's cultural spine, where emperors built citadels, where ancient Cham kingdoms left their temples in the jungle, and where the French left behind baguettes that eventually became the world's greatest sandwich. The geography shifts constantly. Limestone karst, white sand, rice paddies, jungle-covered mountains, and unlike the beautiful chaos of Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City, the rhythm here is gentler, more human. A motorbike, a week, and a loose plan is genuinely all you need. We start where most people do. Hoi An's Old Town is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it looks it. Mustard yellow merchant houses from the 16th century, Chinese assembly halls with spiral incense coils hanging from the ceiling, a 400-year-old Japanese covered bridge that still carries foot traffic every day. But what keeps people here longer than planned isn't the architecture, it's the atmosphere. The old town goes pedestrian only after about 4 in the afternoon, and that's when the place transforms. Lanterns come on, the Thu Bon River catches their reflection, and the narrow streets fill with the kind of easy wandering that doesn't need a destination.
Entry to the old town requires a ticket, around 120,000 dong, roughly $5, which covers admission to 5 heritage sites of your choosing. Early morning or late afternoon are the sweet spots. Midday heat empties the streets, but it also empties your willingness to enjoy them. The real reason to linger in Hoi An, though, is the food. This small town punches absurdly above its weight. Khao lao, thick rice noodles with pork, herbs and crispy croutons exists nowhere else in Vietnam, traditionally made with water drawn from a specific local well. Banh mi here is the standard against which all others are measured. Madam Khanh on Tran Khao Van Street has had a line out the door for decades, and at roughly $1 a sandwich, the only mistake is ordering just one. The central market opens at dawn. Walk past the produce stalls to the back, where women run tiny operations with plastic stools and charcoal burners, serving white rose dumplings and bowls of mi quang noodles in rich turmeric broth. Breakfast there, surrounded by locals eating the same thing, will cost you less than $2 and taste better than meals at 20 times the price. 3 kilometres north of the old town, an easy bicycle ride through rice paddies, Tra Quay is a working vegetable village that's been farming the same plots for 300 years. Several small operations run cooking classes here. You pick herbs and vegetables straight from the garden, learn to roll fresh spring rolls and cook traditional dishes, then sit down to eat everything you've made. Classes run about $30 to $35 and take half a day. It's gentle, unhurried, and works beautifully for families with kids who might be reaching their temple threshold.
The cycling alone, flat paths through brilliant green countryside, water buffalo standing chest deep in the paddies, is worth the trip. Turning towards the coast, it's a 10-minute ride east from Ho An to An Bang Beach, a long, wide stretch of pale sand that's managed to stay relatively relaxed despite its growing reputation.
Beach chairs and umbrellas are free if you order from one of the beachfront restaurants, and the seafood coming off those grills is remarkably good for what you'll pay. Grilled squid, cold beer hoi, your feet in warm sand, the afternoon disappears quickly here. Swimming is reliable from April through September. Outside those months, the surf picks up and the undertow deserves respect. If you're an early riser, the beach at 6 in the morning belongs to the fishermen, hauling in their round basket boats through the shallows. It's a scene that makes you glad you set an alarm. For something more adventurous, the Cham Islands sit about 15 kilometres offshore, a marine park reachable by speedboat in 20 minutes from Kua Dai port, just east of Hoi An. The snorkeling is the draw. Warm, clear water over coral gardens with surprising variety for such a short trip. Full-day tours run about $25 to $30, including lunch on the island and 2 snorkeling stops. Water visibility peaks between June and August when the sea is calmest. The island itself has a quiet fishing village where you could lose an hour wandering, with almost no tourist infrastructure outside the main beach. Travelling with kids old enough to snorkel, this tends to be the day they talk about most. We've explored Hoi An's orbit, now things get vertical. Heading north towards Da Nang, the Marble Mountains appear about 20 minutes from Hoi An, 5 limestone peaks jutting straight out of flat suburban sprawl. It looks improbable, like someone dropped a mountain range in a parking lot. The main peak, Thuy Son, is open to visitors, a series of caves, Buddhist pagodas and viewpoints connected by stone steps. The climb isn't technical, but it's steep and slippery in places, so wear proper shoes. Entry is 40,000 dong, about $1.60, with an optional elevator for those who'd rather start at the top and work down. Inside the larger caves, shafts of sunlight cut through gaps in the limestone ceiling, illuminating altars and Buddha statues in a way that feels almost staged. It's not. Allow about 2 hours and bring water. Da Nang sits just beyond the mountains, and it often gets treated as a transit point between Hoi An and Hue, which is a mistake. Vietnam's 4th largest city has excellent beaches. My Khe runs for miles, with strong surf and far fewer crowds than you'd expect from a city this size. The Dragon Bridge, spanning the Han River downtown, breathes actual fire and shoots water on weekend evenings at 9 o'clock. That sounds absurd until you're standing there with thousands of locals watching a 600-metre bridge-shaped dragon launch flames into the night sky. Kids lose their minds, adults do too. Han Market near the river is worth a morning visit for dried seafood, Vietnamese coffee and local snacks you won't find labelled in English. Da Nang also offers the most affordable accommodation along this stretch of coast, particularly on the beach road, where decent hotels run $30 to $50 a night. 40 minutes into the mountains west of Da Nang is Bana Hills, a resort complex perched at 1,400 metres. The Golden Bridge, held aloft by 2 enormous stone hands emerging from the jungle hillside, has become one of Southeast Asia's most photographed structures, and in person, standing on it, with clouds drifting through the valley below, it earns every photo. The cable car ride up is one of the longest single-wire spans in the world, crossing dense jungle canopy with views that keep expanding until you can see the coastline behind you. Entry runs about $1 million dong, roughly $40, covering the cable car, bridge, gardens, and the somewhat surreal European village replica at the summit. Arrive when the gates open to beat the tour buses. By late morning, the crowds thicken considerably. Now comes the stretch I mentioned at the start.
North of Da Nang, the Hoi An Pass is a 21-kilometer road climbing over the Trung San Mountains, the spine that separates the climates of North and South Vietnam. From the seat of a motorbike, wind in your face, the South China Sea glinting 1,000 feet below you, the road curving through cloud forest, you understand immediately why this drive has the reputation it does. Rent a motorbike in Da Nang for about $8 to $10 a day, or hire an Easy Rider guide for around $50 who handles the driving while you take it all in. The old French-era fortifications at the summit have been converted into an informal lookout. Ocean to the east, mountains falling away to the west, clouds rolling over the ridgeline like slow-motion waves. It's the kind of panorama that makes people go quiet. The pass takes about 45 minutes without stops, but nobody does it without stops. Over the mountains and an hour further north, the road drops into Hue, the former imperial capital of the Nguyen dynasty, which ruled Vietnam from 1902 to 1945. The mood shifts. Hue is quieter, more contemplative, its pace set by the slow curve of the Perfume River. The Citadel is the centerpiece, a massive walled complex modelled on Beijing's Forbidden City, with palaces, temples, gardens and ceremonial halls spread across several square kilometres. Much of it was damaged during the 1968 Tet Offensive and has been under careful restoration ever since. What remains is haunting, crumbling walls half swallowed by tropical vegetation, alongside meticulously restored throne rooms in vivid red and gold. The contrast between ruin and restoration tells a story no guidebook quite captures. Entry is 200,000 dong, around $8. A guided tour is worth considering. The architecture alone doesn't reveal much, but the histories of the emperors, their ambitions, their rivalries, their elaborate preparations for the afterlife are extraordinary. Hue's food stands apart from anything else in Vietnam, sharper, more complex, shaped by the imperial court's historic demand for variety and refinement.
Bun Bo Hui, a spicy beef noodle soup with lemongrass and shrimp paste, is the signature dish, and the versions in its hometown are noticeably richer than what you'll find elsewhere. Dong Ba Market, on the north bank of the Perfume River, is the city's commercial heart, vast, loud and thoroughly real. The food stalls upstairs serve ban bio, ban nam and ban loc, delicate steamed rice cakes with shrimp, pork or mushroom fillings, arriving in sets that feel like a tasting menu for about $1. Find the stalls where the market workers eat their own lunch. That's the only guidance you need. 4 kilometres upriver from the Citadel, Pien Mu Pagoda sits on a bluff overlooking the Perfume River. 7 stories of red brick, surrounded by gardens and pine trees, the oldest pagoda in Hue. Entrance is free, and the grounds are calm in a way that feels earned after the intensity of the market. From here, a ride into the forested hills south of the city brings you to the royal tombs, the final resting places of the Nguyen emperors, each one a sprawling complex designed as a private paradise for the afterlife. The tomb of Khai Dinh is the most visually striking, an ornate fusion of Vietnamese and European design covered in elaborate mosaic work that catches the light differently at every hour. The tomb of Ming Mang is the most serene, set among lotus lakes and frangipani trees, with pavilions reflected perfectly in still water. Each charges around 100,000 dong to enter, about $4, and visiting 2 or 3 makes for a rich, contemplative afternoon.
Vietnam's central coast doesn't ask you to choose between culture and coastline, between adventure and rest. It's a part of Southeast Asia where a single week can hold imperial palaces, mountain passes, coral reefs, river lanterns, and a $1 sandwich that might just rearrange your understanding of what bread can do. The distances are short, the costs are low, and the feeling that stays with you, of warmth, of generosity, of a place that keeps quietly revealing itself, that one you carry home. Like if this was interesting, hit the subscribe for more and turn that notification bell on.